Hi, I'm Renée Walker, a mindset mentor, speaker, and lover of all things spiritual. I believe that at our core, we are all spiritually wired for love, peace, success, and abundance. Here on the podcast, we're diving into mindset, wellness, and business, but always through a spiritual lens. Let's just say we're going deep, but we're keeping it light. So let's elevate your life from the inside out, one conversation at a time. Welcome to Spiritually Wired. Welcome back to the Spiritually Wired podcast. Today's episode is one where I wanted to answer what I would say is probably one of the top questions for sure that I get asked the most. And that is, how do I hold space for the people that I love when they're going through something really hard without it affecting my own energy? So I will assume that you've probably been in a situation where you're working really hard on yourself, you're protecting, doing the best you can to protect your energy, to really focus on raising your frequency, on healing your nervous system. You're doing all the things, but there is someone that is close to you that is going through a really hard time. And it can be very challenging to not get pulled into their energy, especially when it's someone that is close to you that you love, right? So it can be a partner, a spouse, it can be your children, a parent, a friend, a close friend that's going through something difficult. The question is, how do we love them without abandoning ourselves? And there's definitely a lot of dialogue around setting boundaries. And I did a whole episode on setting boundaries. But the thing is that setting boundaries when it comes to the people that you are the closest to can be challenging, especially people if you live with them in your home. Of course, your energy is going to be affected. There's no sort of other way, but I want to share with you today some tools that can help you to support yourself. And I also wanted to share I call these qualities for holding space. And this is something that I've taught in the Spiritually Wired membership. It is, I believe, really, tools that are so important when it comes to cultivating our relationships. And the reality is that the relationships in our lives, the people that are in your life, that is how we learn the most about ourselves. That is when we have the opportunities to grow, to learn, to expand. But they can also be the most challenging parts of our lives as well. So we're going to start with one. I remember reading this probably in my 20s when I didn't have any children. I've probably shared it on the podcast before. However, I'm going to bring it up again because when I read it later as a parent, it helped me in so many ways. And that is the quote from Khalil Gibran in the book The Prophet, where he says, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you." So this here is specific to children, but to me, the essence of this truth carries in so many different relationships that we have. It is a reminder that everyone is on their own journey. And yes, we are connected to the people in our lives for a reason, for a deep reason, yet we are not here to fix. We are not here to control. We are not here to change. What is someone else's journey? And it is probably the most difficult thing to do, especially again when it's the people that you love the most and you look at them or you see them going through something difficult and maybe there's like, oh, I just want to change it for them. And yes, we can be there with them. We can walk beside them. We can be there to offer support when it's asked. But we're here to witness. We're not necessarily here to rescue the people around us. And most of the time when we can recognize that we've shifted into this rescuing place is when we are trying to control other people, to fix them so that we can feel good about ourselves. Because ultimately, that's what it is. That's not really love. That's more, if you're okay, then it means I can be okay. And so it asks us to, what does that really look like? To hold space, to be with someone, but to be there in presence, to be there in love without losing yourself in the process. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this. I wanted to expand on that. So there's some specific qualities. I call them qualities, but really, because I don't like using the word steps because it certainly is not a linear process. And it's something that is always evolving. So one of them is, as I've just sort of mentioned, is the importance of presence. And that means that when we are holding space for someone that we love that's going through something difficult, the most loving thing we can do is to be present, meaning that we're not in our heads trying to figure out what we're going to say, trying to fix, trying to figure out, making assumptions, jumping into solution mode, preparing ourselves for what we can say next. Because the truth is that when we're going through something difficult, what we are really looking for is to be heard, to be seen, and to be accepted in that moment just as we are. And sometimes, in trying to make someone feel better, we try to bring up all of the things that's happened in our lives that we feel is like, oh, maybe that's going to help you, because I went through a similar situation. That's not really being present necessarily. I'm not saying that there aren't times when there's value added in being able to share, but really sort of paying attention to when those moments are coming from, like, is this about me or is this about them? Is this me trying to fill the silence? Is it me trying to, make someone feel better? When really, usually it is just in the space of knowing that someone is there. They're not there, trying to pretend that they know what I'm going through. They're there just simply with their presence. And that is such a powerful way of loving someone, listening to them, right? That is where the power is just holding space, being with them, listening. And that requires being able to hold space for yourself first. That means you also need to be in a place where you feel strong enough to be present and to listen and to allow for whoever it is in your life to feel seen, to be in that space without losing yourself, without being absorbed into that energy of what they're going through, right? So first, it's like it requires you to be grounded, you to be strong, because then from that place of strength is where you're able to really hold space for this other person. It's important always to, allow for everyone to feel safe, right? I mentioned it's like feeling seen, feeling heard, feeling accepted. Those are our most basic emotional needs as humans. And that means feeling safe in the relationships that you're in, where there's no judgment, we're not rushing, we're not shoulding. We are, really there to be present, to listen, and to ask the questions, allow them to share their truth without you being trying to make it into what you think it is. So the job isn't to fix, it's to really hold space and to love without any judgment. Validation is also an important piece of holding space with other people. So listening to them, but then also instead of like, oh, I understand what you're going through, I know what you're going through because I've been there too. It's more, I hear you. I believe you. I believe you is so powerful because often when someone is going through a difficult, challenging time, you feel alone, right? You feel alone, and maybe no one else knows what you're going through, or you feel that no one else can understand fully what you're going through. But to just hear, I believe you, and that, yeah, like that, it makes sense that this would be such a difficult, or it would feel so difficult at this time. But just allowing for those words to be okay and to let the other person also be involved in the questions or in the conversation, in that dialogue. Such an important part is empathy, not sympathy. I love how Renée Brown says that empathy is walking alongside someone in a place of pain, uncertainty, and discomfort and staying there. I'm going to say that again. Empathy is walking alongside someone who's in a place of pain, uncertainty, discomfort, and staying there. It's not about fixing it, making it better, or taking away the pain. It's about showing up, being present, and letting them know that they're not alone. Sympathy often feels like pity, and unintentionally, it results in the other person feeling disempowered, right? I know that for me personally, I've experienced that where now that I am in a more public way and I share stories that will be very vulnerable. When I share a story that's vulnerable, I'm coming at it not because I want someone to be like, poor you, I feel bad for you, coming at it from a place of sympathy. Oh my goodness, that's probably what I find the most triggering, because the intention is to empower the other person, whoever it is that is listening, to feel not alone. And when we come from a place of sympathy, there's an imbalance there in power. It's sort of like, oh, I've got it figured out. Poor you that you're going through that. No one shares their stories. They're from a vulnerable place to feel or to invite sympathy. Empathy is very different. Empathy is, I'm with you. Together, right? I'm here for you. I'm listening. I want you to feel seen. I want you to feel heard. I want you to feel accepted without any judgment. I want you to feel loved. That is so healing. Now, these are sort of things to keep in mind in terms of holding space for the person that is going through a challenging, difficult time. But as a person who is on the other side, where you are someone who, I know if you're listening to this episode right now, it's because you are a deep feeler, you're an empath, you are someone who wants to be able to hold space, and likely you're going through a situation right now, or you have in the past where someone that you love dearly is going through a hard time. So, as an empath, and we were talking about empathy, right? Empathy is being able to be alongside someone, but an empath means that it's someone who feels a lot, right? You are someone that feels the energy of other people. And so it's easier to practice empathy because it's likely in your nature to be able to be with someone, right? And to hold that space. And the challenging thing now becomes, how do I not take it on? How do I not absorb this energy? I know that I've shared that for me, I can't watch the news. It's something that every time the news is on, I just take it in. And I'm not serving from a higher place after, because now I've just soaked up this very, draining energy. And I know that for me, the best thing I can do is make sure that I protect my energy so that I can move and be there for the people in my life, for my clients, for my students, coming from a place more of power. But that's a boundary that's easy to set, right? Just don't listen, don't watch the news. Although I had a hard time the other day. It's so funny. I was at the dentist, and when you go to the dentist and they have, I don't know why, it's always the news channel. So me, who's not been watching the news, all of a sudden I was bombarded, nothing else to do but just watch this screen of all of the news going on. It was quite interesting to witness how it was affecting me. But all that to say, that's an easier boundary to set. You have control over that. You can turn it off. But when it's, again, with the people, especially the people that you live with, it's not one that's easily turned off. And it's not also one that you don't necessarily want to turn on because you love the other person. So this is where really being mindful and aware of your energy, making sure that you are grounding yourself in the best way that you can. Grounding yourself means that you're present in your body. You're connected to your body. You're aware of how you're feeling, the energy that you're taking on, and the energy so that, you can be aware of the energy that's not yours. The person that you're with that's going through this challenging time, you are going to be of more assistance. You're going to be able to help them more if you do what you can to protect your own vibrational, your frequency, right? If you do the best that you can, I'm not saying that it's perfect. Anyone that tells you that they've got a perfect formula for this, I'm not sure that I would quite trust them, because this is the most difficult thing, right? We're loving beings. We want to support, and the last thing we want to do is see the people that we love suffer in any way, shape, or form. Yet at the same time, we're not helping them if we go down, if we allow ourselves to really be affected in a way in which our energy is now low as well. So how do we do that? Constantly asking yourself, is this mine? Right? So when you're with the person, you know that you are with them, you're listening, you are doing the best that you can to hold space for them, and as you leave, just making sure that you are releasing whatever energies that are not yours. And that 90% of energy is intention, right? So just always paying attention. Okay, is this me? Is this mine? Also, there's a visual, and I believe that the book is called The Gifts Beneath Anxiety. I will make sure that I add it in the show notes. But one of the things that this book was really great at sharing was just how so many people who experience anxiety are empaths. And they are meaning that they're people who are sensitive to the energy around them. And so it's easy when you are sensitive energetically to take on other people's energy. And also, you tend to be the person that people go to when things are not going well. So just being mindful, always checking in, is this mine? And then in that book, she also shares a visual. So I used to, and this is something I have also an episode that I recorded on protecting your energy, but you hear of like the shields or like the bubble of energy. So, just visualizing yourself in this bubble of energy where the energy bounces off, that's not yours. That's never, especially not with someone that you love. Of course, you don't want to protect yourself in that way. You don't want to have this like bubble around you where the person is trying to connect. You can only connect if you're open to a certain extent. So that doesn't work. But she does mention having like wearing a vest. So just visualizing where you're wearing an energetic vest, a protective vest that protects your heart chakra and your solar plexus. And the heart chakra and the solar plexus are probably the two areas that are the most vulnerable as an empath to taking on energy from others. So I know that it's something that a few of my students have really, that they found to be extremely helpful. It doesn't have to be a weighted vest. It doesn't have to come from, again, I always say, where is it coming from? Is it coming from love or is it coming from fear? When we're putting on shields and big protections and all of that stuff, usually it comes from a place of fear. So to me, it's like it comes from a place of love. Your intention is to just not absorb the energy of the person that you are with. So that is something that can be helpful so that you are able to stay more, again, grounded and stay more in your power so that you can care, you can be there for them, you can hold space, but you're not necessarily taking it all on. Communication is so important when it comes to holding space as well and supporting someone who's going through a more challenging time. It's huge, right? Holding space, again, it's not about being self-sacrificing. So it's really about being intentional with how you're showing up and also coming from a place of love where it's like, I love you, I want to be there, and I'm supporting you. And in order for me to do this, I need time to recharge so that I can show up fully during those times where I know that you need me. So you can ask, open up the communication. If someone is on the other end going through something difficult, they're likely maybe not thinking about how it's affecting the person that is the closest to them. And depending, there's so many different variations of this, but just, how can I support you right now? Do you want to talk it out? Do you want me to listen? Do you want some suggestions? Do you want to just not speak and just, for us to be together in silence? So asking the question, asking them what they need. We often forget that and we tend to assume what the other person needs. So ask them what they need and share what you need and really be in that space of, I'm here, I feel you, I see you, I hear you, and, right, what do I need as well, so that you can make sure that you do that. Boundaries, again, when they come from a place of love, are nurturing, they are loving for the other person. So that is the most loving thing often that we can do, is to recognize our own limits, our own capacity. How much capacity do I have? And to really communicate that with the other person. So that can look like, and I know that The word capacity is a really important one, and that's one that I've used often where it's like, I want to, like, I'm here, I hear you, and I need to share with you that right now in this moment, my capacity is super low. I need some time. I need some time, and then, I'll be here for you. So you're still inviting the conversation in, but it is allowing you to take those timeouts when you need them and really checking in on what is my capacity right now that I have. Boundaries can be around, a way in which we practice boundaries too is sometimes recognizing that we need some help, right? That maybe you're not the best person to help your child navigate through this really difficult time, and that it may be time to call on someone that is outside, whether it's going to therapy or counseling or the doctor or whatever it may be. So recognizing what your own limits are and what is the best way in which you can help them, right? Sometimes we don't have the resources, we don't have personally everything that we need in order to be the best person to support them. And so those boundaries are the most loving thing that we can do for the other person. So it's not abandoning them. It really is just being wise. And I've heard this, I believe it was Deepak Chopra, who really speaks of love in action. What does love in action look like, right? Actively loving someone. Actively loving someone often is making those, you know, setting those boundaries and loving them from a place where you stay in your power. Whenever it is that you lose yourself, that is not the most loving way of loving someone else, right? So, another thing that I wanted to share is I remember going to an event with Elizabeth Gilbert. She's the author of Eat, Pray, Love and Big Magic. And one of the things that she shared was sort of like just visualizing drawing a big circle in the sand. And oftentimes we, ask yourself first, like, who's in that circle? So if you think of your circle as being like your space, who's in that circle? And what's interesting is that so often we put everyone else in the circle, our families, our work, all of the obligations that we have, they're in the circle, and we're sort of just on the outside of the circle. And so when there's a little bit of time for us or space, we go in, but most of the time it's everyone else in the circle. And so part of being able to support someone, to love other people without losing yourself, is making sure that you are right at the center of your circle. That in fueling yourself, making sure that you are protecting yourself, honoring your needs so that you can come from a place of strength is the best thing that you can do for other people, but it's also the most beautiful way of loving yourself, is making sure that you are at the center of the circle. And when you think of any crisis situation where something is like, you go to the hospital, right? Let's say you're in a crisis, something is happening health wise. The last thing that you want is for your doctor to start freaking out. You want to know that you feel, okay, they're calm, you feel safe, you're okay, they're there, they're explaining whatever it is happening, but their grounded energy, their sense of this is okay, is what helps us. And so it's the same thing when we are in situations where we are the caretakers or just, in our family dynamic or with a close friend, they want you to come from a place of, this is going to be okay. I'm with you. That's what they need. They don't need you to be in the space of where they are, because that's their journey. That's their thing. You get to be the person. You get to be the energy that lifts them up, that gives them the faith that everything will be okay. So putting yourself at the center of the circle. And I wanted to end as well with a meditation that I know I find probably the best when it comes to when you're in situations with people who are going through difficult time, is a loving kindness meditation. And so a loving kindness meditation is one in which you first give yourself love, give yourself kindness, surround yourself with love, with light, anchor yourself in that love and light. And then you bring to mind the other person that you want to send some energy to, and you visualize them, you imagine them surrounded in love, surrounded at light, receiving that. So you're sending them this energy. And then, you can send the energy to everyone on the planet. But to me, it's like this way of energetically loving someone. And this is so beautiful too, when the other people in our lives are not necessarily always open to us holding space for them. So if you're going through a conflict where you're in a relationship with a child, with a partner, with a parent, with someone who you love dearly, and there's no communication, so the physical holding space at a physical level is not an issue because you're actually not with them physically. But now it's like mentally and spiritually, or emotionally, you really feel that connection. So you're thinking of them, but you're not necessarily with them physically. It's such a beautiful meditation to know that you can send some love, you can send some healing, send some energy to those people in your life, in your world, that maybe you don't have an opportunity to be there for them on a physical level, but it's a way to feel that connection and to send that love. And that is one of my favorites. So, loving kindness meditation. I actually have a podcast coming up on it. So that will share as well a guided meditation for you. So my friends, I hope that this lands with you. I know that it's a difficult topic. It's not an easy one. Yet I know that if you are walking in those shoes right now, it is one of the hardest things, honestly. So I am sending you so much love, and I want you to know that you are always spiritually wired for love, for light, for healing, for peace, for connection. And I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to Spiritually Wired. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow and leave a review. It really makes a big difference for the podcast. And if you're ready to dive deeper and join a soul-led community, come be a part of the Spiritually Wired membership. With weekly live lessons and a rich library of recorded classes, it's designed to support you every step of the way on your spiritual journey. We currently have a special offer where you can receive your first month for half the price. You can find a link in the show notes or come check it out at reneewalkerwellness.com. Until next time, remember to take some deep breaths. Remember that you are spiritually wired.